So have any of you guys seen the clip from the podcast about with Christine Brennan? This book is going to be crazy. I mean this when I say this. This book is going to be absolutely...
With shocking revelations about officiating scandals and behind-the-scenes drama set to hit bookstores, the WNBA panicked, thinking they could silence their biggest critic. However, they chose the wrong battle when a legendary journalist decided to write a tell-all book about what actually happened during Caitlin Clark's explosive rise to fame. Do you believe that journalists who pose difficult questions ought to be prohibited?
So Christine Brennan is... And the WNBA tried to get Christine Brennan banned. And I mean this when I say this. Like, whatever your opinion on Christine Brennan is, it is not a positive thing if you are trying to get rid of probably the most impactful women's sports reporter in the history of women's sports. Like, there's not one reporter who has, even if you don't like Christine Brennan, even if you don't like some of the things, they cannot come for Christine Brennan. Like, it is a bad look. It is a bad look. It's like going for a freaking, if you're a critic, it's like, imagine if, I don't know, Bill Russell said something, rest in peace, Bill Russell. But imagine hypothetically if Bill Russell was alive and Bill Russell said something positive.
Let me be very clear about who we're talking about here. This isn't just any blogger with a grudge, because the WNBA really stepped in at this point, didn't they? Here we have Christine Brennan. Perhaps the most significant female sports journalist in history, she was the first woman to cover major sports beats that had been dominated by men for decades, appeared at 21 Olympic Games, was repeatedly named one of America's top 10 sports columnists, and the WNBA Players Association attempted to have her press credentials revoked for asking some difficult questions. The audacity is astounding, and to be honest, it tells you everything you need to know about how the league functions when they believe no one is looking. However, they didn't anticipate that Brennan isn't just writing columns anymore. In just a few weeks, she has been working on something much larger, and on July 8th, she released her shocking book about her game. The WNBA should be sweating buckets over the book description alone. Caitlin Clark and the revolution in women's sports hit shelves, and from what we're hearing, this isn't going to be some fluffy celebrity biography. Rather, it's going to be an expose that reveals exactly what transpired during Clark's rookie season. Brennan promises to provide exciting new information regarding Clark's Olympic rejection by USA Basketball and the safety issues around her that resulted in all players having to take charter aircraft. The WNBA's inability to prepare for increased national scrutiny and alarming outbursts of jealousy and animosity as a white player emerged as the league's most prominent story in a predominantly black league.
I did radio shows where people would laugh about the WNBA and women's college basketball. They roll around on the floor. It's ridiculous. The WNBA had never had an Arnie Jack moment, had never had, Havlicek, Celtics, Bill Russell, moment, Lakers, Kareem moment. Well, so when we talk about these understandable connections, that's where it breaks down. Because when you're looking at the WNBA, the interest was so low. And then one person brings it up so high. And that's why, again, I wanted to focus on this story and look at the magnitude of this one person at this one time. We're almost at the 53rd anniversary of Title IX. I tie that all in, no mistake at all. The nation has fallen in love with...
Oh, we're making progress now, aren't we? The WNBA's lack of readiness for more national scrutiny. Translation: since the timeline here is so important, let's talk about what exactly started this whole mess. It all began during the playoffs when Connecticut Sun guard Dejanai Carrington unintentionally poked Caitlin Clark in the eye during a game. They had no idea how to handle suddenly being in the spotlight, and they made a complete mess of it. However, it gets better when there are troubling outbreaks of jealousy and resentment. That's not my opinion. That's coming from the journalist who has been watching this unfold from the inside.
If you take off your capes for just a second and look at this objectively from this viewpoint right here, you'll see that there's no way Dejanay Carrington intentionally poked that girl in the eye. But anytime something happens to Caitlin Clark, Jason Whitlock and the rest of the White Knights want to press charges against the jealous black Shaniquas.
People naturally began discussing whether Clark's black eye was deliberate after he sustained it. This is where things start to get interesting. Did you intend to hit her in the eye? Brennan, acting like a journalist, asked Carrington straight as he went and gave Caitlin a kind of slap. No, it was an accident. She was going to the ball, Carrington added. Okay. But later in the game, Brennan inquired as to whether Carrington and her teammates had shared a laugh over it.
Yeah. Did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her, so I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
Then everything went haywire. The WNBA Players Association lost their collective mind and released what can only be described as a hit piece disguised as a statement accusing Brennan of being unprofessional and indecent and demanding that her credentials be stripped. They also claimed that she had obvious bias and ulterior motives, which is rich given that every sports journalist who covers a beat regularly has relationships and perspectives that evolve over time. What's even more hilarious is their complaint that Brennan is writing a book about Clark as if this is somehow unusual in sports journalism. Do you know how many books have been written about Michael Jordan, LeBron James? Brady. Tom, it's literally standard practice for accomplished journalists to write books about significant sports figures, but apparently when it comes to Caitlin Clark, that's suddenly problematic. The union statement was so over-the-top aggressive that even other journalists who don't particularly like Brennan had to defend her, because what the WNBA Players Association was essentially arguing is that tough questions should be off limits if they might make players uncomfortable, which is insane. Think about this for a second. In the NFL, NBA, or MLB, if a player gets involved in a controversial play, reporters are going to ask about it. That's literally their job. But in the WNBA, apparently asking follow-up questions about whether players found something funny as grounds for getting banned from covering the league entirely. The hypocrisy is staggering. These are the same people who constantly complain that women's sports don't get taken seriously, don't get the same level of coverage as men's sports, but the moment a journalist treats them like professional athletes who can handle tough questions, they run crying to try to get that journalist silenced. And let's be honest about what's really going on here. This isn't about protecting DJ Carrington from mean questions. This is about controlling the narrative around Caitlin Clark, because Clark has become too big, too important, and too financially valuable for the league to allow any negative coverage to stick.
Once Steph and LeBron retire, will there be an active American athlete that's more famous than her?
No.
I think she will be more famous than every baseball player she might already be, every hockey player, all of the U.S. men's national team, and every football player that isn't really Patrick Mahomes and maybe Lamar, Josh. Like, there's only a few. And I think she's already more famous than every NBA player but KD, Steph, and LeBron. And I don't see any of those guys catching her. I think she is a supernova of fame and talent.
She's the Tiger 20 years ago on the tour. Like, the ratings disappear. It's nothing against the WNBA. She literally is changing the entire league economy.
Clark single-handedly brought more attention to women's basketball than the league had seen in its entire 27-year history, and the numbers don't lie. During Clark's first season, WNBA TV viewership increased by over 400% in some markets. Attendance at the Indiana Fever games skyrocketed, and merchandise sales went through the roof. However, rather than being grateful, players and coaches made snide remarks about Clark receiving too much attention. Veterans expressing dissatisfaction about her treatment, the Olympic snub that was so obviously driven by petty politics that even casual fans could see through it, and Christine Brennan was there documenting all of it. Now here's where things get really interesting, because we're starting to see a pattern of problematic officiating that goes way beyond one controversial play. Just this past week, we had another incident where Clark got hit in the face during a game against the Connecticut Sun. This time it was JCS Sheldon who made contact while swiping at the ball, but then Marina Maberry from the Sun shoved Clark to the ground in what was clearly a cheap shot. And what did the referees do? Nothing. They let Maberry stay in the game. Clark actually got called for a technical foul, apparently for flopping when she was literally shoved to the ground. Brennan was absolutely livid about this, and rightfully so. She tweeted, "The WNBA continues to fail to meet the moment. Terrible decision to allow Marina Maberry to stay in the game. People are watching as never before, and this is what they see." It's not just Brennan calling out this tennis legend, though. She's absolutely correct that Clark is attracting more than half of the league's TV audience by herself. When casual fans tune in to see what the hype is about and watch the league's biggest star get cheaped while the referees do nothing, what message does that send? Chris Ever wrote, "When will these ladies realize, accept, and appreciate Caitlin Clark is the best thing that ever happened to women's basketball? This is a bad look for the sport, and what's happened to sportsmanship?" Even Clark's coach, Stephanie White, slammed the officials after the game, stating she never got an explanation for why Clark was given a technical foul for getting knocked to the ground. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Clark consistently gets harder treatment than other players, and the officials consistently fail to protect her appropriately, whether that's due to incompetence, bias, or something more sinister we may not know till Brennan's book comes out, because here's what's really got the WNBA frightened. Brennan has been covering this topic from day one with unprecedented access. She's conducted dozens of exclusive interviews. She's been behind the scenes documenting everything, and Clark herself has been cooperating, answering every question Brennan has asked. The book description mentions exclusive behind-scenes reporting regarding the league's shortcomings. It talks about safety issues around her that led to charter flights for all players. Wait, what safety worries? What kind of safety problems necessitate charter flights? That's not something you typically hear about professional sports leagues. And then there's this line about the WNBA's lack of preparation for heightened national scrutiny. This suggests the league knew they were going to be under a microscope because of Clark, but they still managed to screw things up repeatedly. The Olympic snub alone is going to be worth the price of admission for this book. USA Basketball's decision to leave the college basketball all-time scoring leader off the Olympic team was so indefensible that even mainstream media outlets called it one of the worst sports decisions of the year. Brennan called it one of the worst decisions I've seen in 40 years of covering the Olympics. And she's not some casual observer. She's covered 21 Olympic Games. When someone with that level of experience says something is historically bad, you should probably listen. But the Olympic snub wasn't made in a vacuum. It was part of a pattern of the basketball establishment trying to minimize Clark's impact and keep her in her place. And we know this because we could see it happening in real time throughout her rookie season. The constant cheap shots that went uncalled, the media coverage that seemed more focused on criticizing Clark's fans than celebrating her achievements, the way veteran players would make passive-aggressive comments about how the league was fine before she got there, and through it all, Christine Brennan was taking notes. The WNBA's attempt to silence Brennan by getting her credentials revoked was always doomed to fail, but it reveals something crucial about how the league operates. When faced with legitimate criticism, their first instinct isn't to address the problems, it's to attack the messenger. That's not the behavior of a confident, well-run organization. That's the behavior of an organization that knows it has serious problems and is desperately trying to prevent them from becoming public, but it's too late for that now. The book is coming out in 3 weeks, and there's nothing the WNBA can do to stop it. All their attempts to silence Brennan have only drawn more attention to what she's discovered. The timing couldn't be worse for the league either. Clark is entering her second season with even more spotlight on her. The WNBA just signed a massive new media rights deal that's going to put even more games on national television. Corporate sponsors are investing millions of dollars based on the growth that Clark has driven, and right in the middle of all this success, we're about to get a detailed account of how the league nearly sabotaged itself through incompetence, jealousy, and political infighting. The really damning part is that none of this had to happen. Clark came into the league as a humble rookie who repeatedly said she just wanted to contribute to her team's success. She deflected attention, praised her teammates, and handled criticism with remarkable grace. For Someone who was only 22 years old, the league could have embraced or protected her and used her popularity to lift up the entire sport. Instead, they allowed pettiness and resentment to poison what should have been a celebration. And now Christine Brennan is going to tell the world exactly how it all went wrong. The WNBA believed that by intimidating reporters and exerting pressure on media outlets, they could control the narrative and make issues go away by attacking those who covered them. But they chose the wrong reporter to play with. Since before the majority of these athletes were even born, Brennan has been an advocate for women's sports. She has dismantled barriers, altered perceptions, and made a living by speaking out against the status quo. The idea that a few angry tweets and a strongly worded statement from the players' union was going to silence her is laughable. If anything, their attacks on her have only validated everything she's been reporting, because if the WNBA had nothing to hide, why would they be so desperate to stop her from talking? The book comes out on July 8th, and based on everything we know, it's going to be explosive. We're talking about detailed accounts of behind-scenes conflicts, documented examples of biased officiating, and insider information about the political maneuvering that led to some of the most controversial decisions in recent WNBA history. This isn't just going to be about Caitlin Clark either. This is going to be about an entire league that was unprepared for success and made every possible mistake. When it finally arrived, the WNBA wanted to silence Christine Brennan, but instead, they've given her the biggest platform she's ever had. Every sports fan in America is going to want to read this book now just to see what all the fuss was about. And when they do, they're going to get an unvarnished look at how a professional sports league can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory through sheer incompetence and petty politics. The message is going to alter everything, even though the WNBA attempted to shoot the messenger. This book will reveal everything the WNBA attempted to conceal about Clark's first season, including dishonest officiating, envious players, and an Olympic snub that defied all reason. What revelation are you most eager to read about? Share your thoughts below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more sports drama that the mainstream media won't cover. July 8th can't come soon enough.